You and I'll just try our very best to be entertaining.
I don't doubt that we will be.
No. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. I am your co-host, co-founder of the Liberty First Foundation, Frank Johnson. They call me the Space Cowboy. To my right is Michael Vasquez, Dragon of the Southern Tier, New York's only truly independent journalist. He is the boogeyman in the left-wing dreams. Vas, how are you this evening?
I'm doing all right. I know we're running. We started a little bit late because life happens. Not a big deal, but and there's just so much that's been going on. It's a slow week, but yet it's not. You know, the things that are happening are important, but not as dramatic as, India and Pakistan going to war, the on and off negotiations with Russia, Ukraine, and the peace talks with Donald Trump. But it is important what's going on. And by the way, most people may not realize right now, the peace talks with the Congo and Rwanda in Africa. Yes, the United States is involved in that. And yes, the Trump administration is moving that forward. We're very much involved in that. So pretty much all across the world, everywhere where there's a peace talk going on, it's because Donald Trump has been making that move forward. So there's some good news.
Well, it's funny. I've been watching a little bit of the news. I have not had time, even if I wanted to actually sit and watch a little bit of news at all, other than what I can catch, snippets here on there and Twitter and stuff like that. And what I can say is that Trump is out there on the world stage right now speaking in front of various groups, various countries, different ethnic, religious, different racial classes of people, different countries, and he's making the case for peace around the world. And his words are being extremely well received by people that you wouldn't necessarily think would be receiving them well. And the funny thing is that nowhere in the mainstream media are they carrying any of this. They're not carrying any of this. They are more concerned with trying to now cover their own asses on the Joe Biden cancer debacle than they are of actually, what's happening right now. I don't know who Trump was speaking to as a group in the Middle East where it was a bunch of African nations, Middle Eastern nations, all in this big auditorium. Yeah, and he was over there speaking, and his speech was Reagan-esque. It was beautifully worded. It was well delivered. It was extremely well received by the people in attendance to it. And if Obama had delivered this speech, they'd been looking to give him his fifth Nobel Peace Prize. They would have tried to give him 4 for the ones he didn't get, and then a 5th one on top of it. But what are they talking about? They're talking about Joe Biden and trying to make excuses for themselves. So their failure is the media for the last 4 years.
Well, it's because they've been exposed, and everyone knew this. I mean, Jake Tapper really brought it onto himself because all the evidence, and people are pulling up the evidence videos showing that, yeah, he lied to the public. He was covering for the White House, the Biden administration, for Democrats, to make it seem like Joe Biden was perfectly fine, and anyone who dared to not go with the approved message, well, they were the bad people. They were outsiders. You were MAGA, Republican, you were a Trumper, whatever you want to call it. And therefore, you could not be trusted because they're the elites. They know these things. And then it turns out, like in so many cases that we've been seeing over the last 4 or 5 years, 6 months later, all of a sudden, oh, by the way, we lied. The news media is coming out and going, oh, by the way, got it all wrong. But don't worry, you can believe us this time. They lied to us. And they knew they lied to us. They lied on purpose to our face. And now they say, but this time, don't worry. You caught us on a dozen different lies over the last 4 years, including The big one that Biden was a zombie part-time president, but trust us now when we tell you that doom and gloom is around the corner, fear-mongering, you're going to lose all your investments in your retirement account because Orange Man bad. The world's going to end because of Orange Man bad. You're going to lose all of your free speech. You're going to be deported as a citizen. You will be deported because Orange Man bad. Believe us now, even though all evidence has been showing that they're not credible and that they do base everything on their partisan political ideology. And that's sad. I'm glad that the news is showing that, but notice what they're not showing. The Her tape came out. It got leaked. So we got to hear Biden and the special prosecutor, Her, going over Joe Biden on whether or not was Joe Biden guilty of having secret documents, confident classified documents for 40 years that were completely illegal and were absolutely open to anyone. You can just walk into his garage and get them. That was a crime without question. And his answer was, oh yeah, he's too feeble-minded to be able to be held accountable. But he was perfectly, and he had more than enough of his wherewithal, mental wherewithal, to be president. You can't have both. And so they want to distract from that. That's why they're trying to now pivot towards AOC, who I don't know how, but she's suddenly the leading Democrat for 2028 at this point. That's a horror show.
I told you that was going to happen 3 years ago.
Yeah,
3 years ago, I said that was going to happen.
Yeah, in 2020,
I said
down in Florida, when everyone else was locked down, she was in Florida trying to get Senator Kirsten Gillibrand's donors to donate to her because the plan was already in place then. So not a surprise to anyone. It's just the fact that the bench for Democrats is so sparse that AOC, not because she has a plan, not because she's an incredible leader, not because she's useful, efficient, effective at anything. None of those are the reasons. It's merely because they have no one else. No one else.
Well, I mean, they ousted David the Grifter Hogg as DNC co-chair because his philosophy was he wanted to bring more youthful people into the DNC because he says the youth is where it's at because they're easily manipulated and, you can brainwash them that much easier, and, because he went to war with the elder statespeople in the DNC, they deemed that he was too radical, but they couldn't say we're getting rid of him because he's too, because he wants to steer the ship towards younger people. No, it's because he wasn't diverse enough. So they used diversity as a means of getting rid of him. So the whole thing with AOC, it's funny that they're going to try and pin the wagon on her when she's the one who meets the criteria that David Hogg was talking about. He wants to enlist more youthful people to become the heads of the party, and they said, no, that's ridiculous because we still have to, kiss the ring of Nancy Pelosi. But then they turn around and you can see them pushing her. But that's beside the point.
Well,
I don't give a damn.
Before you go further, it wasn't that he wanted youthful people. And when he says youthful, it's relative for politics. He means 30 and 40-year-olds, not 70 and 80-year-olds. But what he really was focused in on is he wanted progressives who are a splinter faction of the Democratic Party, who have an ideology like the Democratic Socialists of America to destroy the Constitution and to rewrite all of the amendments. That's who he was focused on because they would give him the most money. And
Yeah, but that's not
why they-
not a splinter faction of the DNC. That is the DNC.
No, that's a splinter. It is because
No, but you're going to tell me that a majority of the left right now are not socialists?
well, there's a difference between rank and file Democrats, the elected Democrats, and the leadership. Those are three different things in terms of the political outlook. So David Hogg was talking about leadership in terms of the leadership, in terms of the entire party. Progressives are about 3 to 5% of the Democratic Party, and they don't count themselves as Democrats. They're just in the party, because if they were on their own, no one would pay attention to them. They'd be the Green Party. No one would care. But in terms of leadership, now you're talking about a much more significant proportion of them. And that's where you get people like Bernie Sanders and AOC. You get Cory Bush and Ilhan Omar, Jasmine Crockett. You get those people, Hakeem Jeffries. So you have a higher percentage of them when you're talking about the elected leadership. But if you're talking about just Democrats walking down the street, no, they're absolutely a sliver. So it is a slight difference. You know what I mean?
I think most of you Democrats out there are full-blown commies.
I wouldn't say that, but
they believe me. They all got pictures of Joseph Stalin hanging on their wall. They bow to Che Guevara in the morning. They're just full-blown commies. They just listen. If the last couple of years has shown anything at all, it's the Democrat Party has shown itself its true colors. The Kennedy Democrat, the last of them died in 1986. They're gone. They're not. What they are now is all radicals. Every one of them. They just try to present themselves as being moderates because they know that that's where the electorate is going to look for as far as where they're going to put their vote. They're not all going to come out and pledge to the hammer and sickle and expect to get the votes. It's rules for radicals. You hold on to your radical idea, but you wear the suit of a moderate. And that's what they will. And the vast majority of them are just to the left of the left.
Again, there's a difference between the elected officials and the majority of people, because the majority of Democrats didn't go to Harvard or Columbia, Cornell University, Binghamton University. They didn't go to these schools. Most of the Democrats across the nation, they may be center left, but they're not progressive left. There is a difference there. And I do highlight that because there's real people and then there's politics. There is a difference. And I do understand that. And Hogg was talking about not just politics, but elitist politics. And that's why they had to change the story. They didn't want to keep talking about that because even other Democrats were looking at that news story about David Hogg, what his goals were, what he was targeting versus what the people wanted. And they did not match up at all. The policies, the ideology of David Hogg, no one believes in except maybe AOC, Bernie Sanders, the people who have flipped. And when we talk about all these progressives, you talk about Bernie Sanders and the Bernie Bros, and they all flipped for the money. Bernie has 3 houses now? AOC is worth somewhere between 1.7 and $17 million, depending on which source you look to. And still asking for the public to pay for her college student loans, which is ridiculous. It's insane.
Well, they're all commies.
Today, yesterday, excuse me, today. You know what happened today? It's these same radicals. The pro-Hamas radicals were in Colombia. They had their graduation today. They were burning their diplomas because they want more support for Hamas, a terrorist organization that killed 34 Americans on October 7th, 2023, and killed 17 out of 22 American hostages. We just got the last American hostage back. Thank you, President Trump, because Biden wasn't trying to get them back, and they're out there today. They were burning their diplomas. Now, the thing that caught me about this, they're so angry at Columbia for not pushing their leftist activism. They're still keeping the diplomas. They didn't quit the school and say, we're going to take our money away. We're going to go to a different college. They didn't say we're going to give up on this system. No. They want the title so that when they go out and get a job for, they expect to get $50,000, $100,000, $200,000. They still want to have the name Columbia University so they can get the job they want and the money that they want. But they're going to, up until then, they're going to say, oh, see, we're going to burn the diploma. We're going to protest, virtue signaling. That's what this is. And that's where I think the public is. We see this and we recognize it for what it is. You're virtue signaling. It's not honest. It's not genuine, and it's not beneficial. You may disagree with me, but I mean, that's what I'm seeing. Did you hear about that today?
They're all commies. All of them. Every last one of them. If you got a D on your voter registration card, you're a commie. That's all there is to it. I don't care anymore because you know why I don't care anymore? I'll tell you what. The only time that I actually see somebody who comes center of the road is when it's a not in my backyard issue. Otherwise, I don't see. Oh, you got all of these radical lunatics running around these colleges, holding everybody hostage and doing all the stuff they're doing. Where are the rest of the students that don't fall into that ideology to stand up and say, "Hey, you know what? Enough is enough of this crap." Where are the faculty members to do it? All I see is a majority of the media supports this kind of behavior, supports the left-wing ideology. The majority of entertainment supports that ideology, supports all of it. I see more and more companies out there embrace DEI. They support all of that stuff. I see more and more people support it, but I don't see the people that you talk about, the middle of the road Democrat, the center left Democrats that come out and say, you know what? The president's not even 130 days into his term. Why don't we give him a chance to see what happens? You know what? Maybe it's a good idea that we deport illegal aliens because, there's a lot of crime that's associated with them. There's a lot of cost that's associated with them. We don't have the funds to facilitate taking care of 13 million people. I don't see the center left exhibiting anything other than parroting the radical left ideology and towing that line. Now, I don't know if it's maybe they're fearful that if they should happen to stray from the plantation a little bit, that they'll be excoriated. But you know what? That's not an excuse. If you are so afraid of the people in your own party and the people of your own ideology that you're afraid to take a stand when you know that they're wrong, then you're a willing accomplice to it. So I don't want to hear that they're this and they're that. Well, maybe behind closed doors. Listen, we're done with behind closed doors. There's no more behind closed doors in the world. If you're not out there vocally supporting the things you need to support, and you can't call what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and you hide behind the rest of the party, even though you say, well, when I'm with my friends, we talk about it differently. When I go in the voting booth, I talk about it differently. Enough. Show some background. Listen. I have no problem. You know for a fact I got no problem voicing my opinion when I have an objection to what people in my own party do. Right? I'm the first one to come out and scream at it from the high heavens. It doesn't mean I'm abandoning my party, and I know my party isn't going to abandon me. It's that vocalization. It's that debate.
Yeah, but wait. That's the point. You, as Republicans, conservatives, hell, even the libertarians, well, not the libertarians, they're crazy, but conservatives and Republicans, when you come out and you speak that you have an issue, one of your issues where you disagree with whoever's elected, no, we don't throw them out the party. Obviously, they may get yelled at, shunned, yeah, but we don't throw them out the party. We don't railroad them and demonize them. The left does. That's exactly what the left does. And that's what everyone who's in the Democrats, they're terrified constantly that
right. And that's,
something they did 15 years ago is going to get them
right.
thrown out.
And that's my point. If you are part of that party, if you were part of that system where your own people will throw you out, cast you aside, throw you under the bus, excoriate you, do everything they can to leave you out, out of the tent. If you are part of that and you are silent about it and you don't come out and say, this is wrong, then you are just as much to blame as the people who are doing it. The idea that I was just following orders is no longer acceptable.
No, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's that they're just following orders. I do think that the left is terrified of the left. They're not afraid of the right. The right actually is more tolerant than the left. The left is the one that says, okay, they're intolerant of people they call intolerant. It's insane. And it doesn't make any sense. Here's the thing. What we're seeing very much so is the left has shown itself to be very autocratic. They are more akin to the whole oligarchy thing. That's the Democratic Party. They don't have primaries. They have anointed individuals. They have pre-designed. Cuomo's going in New York City for the mayor's race. Cuomo already pre-selected. They're already pre-selecting who's going to be running in 2028. It doesn't matter what their rank and file. That's why they have super delegates. That's how they rigged it against Bernie to make sure Hillary would get in. They didn't allow RFK to run in 2024. This is what they do. They believe in the mandates, that you have to believe what they determine is true at the moment that they say it. And when they change their mind in the future, it doesn't matter because they said so. The approved message is the only message. This is what you see on the left. You don't see this on the right. You don't see this in the center. It's only on the left that you get this. And they are terrified because, and I think the reason why so many rank and file Democrats, and if there are Democrats watching the program, and sometimes they hate watch me, I know, if they disagree with what I'm about to say, please do let us know in the comments. But I think they're afraid they're going to be out alone. That if they don't think that they can talk to anyone on the right because they have been told by the approved media over and over again, the right will never talk to you. They hate you. We don't. And the right is always asking the left, let's have this conversation. Let's debate these issues. It's the left that says, you're not smart. You just don't understand. You're not smart enough. I'm not going to explain to you. They're dismissive and they attack our character. But the right is constantly saying, let's have the conversation. Let's prove the best idea. And those on the left are terrified because they think they can't talk to the right. The third parties don't exist. They think they're all lunatics, and they think that they're going to be, if their own party throws them out, unless they're super rich like RFK, they're going to be on their own. They're going to be off of social media. They're going to lose their jobs. Their people they're dating or married to are going to divorce them or throw them away. They're terrified. And I almost feel bad for the Democrats because they did this to themselves.
I don't feel bad.
When Republicans say, oh, I disagree with my wife. Your wife, Republican women don't go, I'm going to divorce my husband. They say, I'll argue with him, but they don't divorce him. They don't suddenly say he's never going to have sex again or say, I'm going to take the kids and walk away. You don't see any of the things you see on the left happening on the right. It tells you how authoritarian the left is and how trapped they are. And that's kind of a sad existence, I think.
I feel no sympathy at all for any of them that are afraid to speak out. The Lord hates a coward, and so do I. And I am so tired of hearing everybody talk about how, they're going to, this will happen if you speak out, that'll happen if you speak out. For God's sake, it's friggin' politics, for God's sake. It's politics. It's not the be-all, end-all, end of the world. It's politics. If you have a disagreement, speak out. Speak out. If you don't like what your party's doing, speak out. If you have a different point of view, speak out. And if you're too afraid to do it because of the party you belong in, then maybe you belong in the wrong, you're in the wrong party. And if you can't see that, I have no sympathy for you. If you said that they can't, we have the key to the chains that bind ourselves. Use the friggin' key. And if you don't want to use it, then you know what? Stay home. Don't even voice an opinion. Because if you are just going to defy your own belief so that you can parrot the party line, you're a useful idiot and you should just keep your mouth shut. If you don't have the stomach to stand on your own, voice your own opinion, draw your own conclusions, then you really shouldn't even be voting. You shouldn't be doing anything. You should just sit there like a cog in the machine, do your day-to-day work the way you're expected to do it, keep your mouth shut, and let things go by. Because if you are willing to remain silent, I have no respect for you. None. Period. None. I laugh. There's Thomas Massey, who you know and I know, is always at war with President Trump for one reason or another. Massey, would you consider Massey to be more libertarian than conservative?
Oh, he's absolutely a libertarian. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. It's like saying, is Bernie Sanders a communist or is he independent? He's a communist.
Well, we know he's under. Well, listen, anybody can be an independent. Bernie is not an independent. Bernie is a communist. He's a full-fledged communist who uses the independent moniker so he could have an advantage for fundraising. That's all that's about.
Yeah. And that's why he also runs with on the Democratic line and runs.
Yeah.
And
anytime I hear somebody, they're an independent, but they caucus with, then you're not an independent. You're not an independent.
It's true.
That's all. You're a phony. All right. Now, Thomas Massey runs as a Republican, calls himself a Republican, but we could all see from his ideology, he's much more of a libertarian, and he's always at war with Trump. But the thing about Thomas Massey, whether you agree with his positions or you disagree with his positions, he always comes at you with his position from a point of honesty.
Yeah.
He believes what he believes, but he also backs it up, not with ideological principle, but with constitutional principle, where he will say, this is where I think you're going a little off. All right. Now, you know, we've all heard the Trump, first we'll take the guns and due process come second. Thomas Massey was one of the first ones to call him on that. Okay. That, I think, was one of the things that started setting the division between the two of them. But when the chips are down and it's something that's necessary, if it's a good conservative policy point that's being voted on, Thomas Massey votes for it. Even though he has disagreements with Trump, even though there's some vitriol between them, they manage to work together and get things done. Even though Trump has turned around and said he's got to be primaried and thrown out of Congress.
Yeah, that's just talk.
All right.
He's not against being primaried. Thomas Massey is like, yeah, please.
No, he would. He's saying, hey, if you think you can do a better job, please primary me, and that's it, and let the voters. That's what a democratic republic is. That's what we have here. But I mean, he doesn't shy away from it. Trump doesn't do himself any favors really by picking fights with guys like Thomas Massey, because when the chips are down, I mean, these are reasonably reliable people, but we have differences within our party. Yeah. But we still work together. The Democrats have one person that steps slightly to the right. I mean, they just shift to the right a little bit because a tree branch flew past them. Oh, you're out of the party. And I'll give you, for instance, Fetterman. Look at Fetterman. Fetterman is one of the few that has got unwavering support of Israel.
Yes,
He gets attacked. He gets attacked constantly because of that. The guy can't even sit on a friggin' park bench and have lunch outside the Capitol without some college kid coming over there screaming in his face about how he's a murderer.
Yeah, it's stupid. But you notice how now in 2025, the change that's happened. Two things have changed. One, John Fetterman today is more mentally stable and lucid than he was when he got elected. That's a fact. Okay. That's just a medical fact. It's not personal, has nothing to do with the individual. He is medically more stable, mentally stable today than he was when he got elected immediately after the stroke. The other thing that's changed is the way Democrats look at him. When he was less lucid, when he was less mentally capable to do the job, Democrats said you can't not have him in Congress, that he had to be a senator, that if you said anything about him, about his mental faculties, well, then you were evil, you were an ist and a phobe, and how dare you, blah, blah, blah. And today, now the Democrats are attacking him, saying that he's mentally deficient and incapable of doing the job when he is better at the job, when he is better at communications, because he's not on the plantation. He's not pushing the approved message like the other Democrats are. And so now they're saying, well, no, he's mentally unstable. Wait a minute. First of all, I didn't want him. I never wanted John Fetterman in office, not because forget his political ideology or his which side of the aisle he stands on. I didn't want him in because he's not mentally capable. I said that day one when he won his election, and I say that today. He was never he is not capable of doing the job. I've always said that, but the Democrats didn't. They said he was capable then, and he's not capable now, and he is better today by exponentially more capable of doing the job today than when he got elected. And now they have a problem. It's not because they don't think John Fetterman can do the job. It's that John Fetterman isn't towing the line. He's not listening to his the unknown. I don't even know who the elites are who are in charge, but he's not listening to the party line and saying like a parrot exactly what they say. And that should be telling to most Democrats about what the state of the Democratic Party is. Make sense to you?
Yeah, well, that's why it goes back to what I say. As soon as you have anything to say opposite of what the party is, you're under attack. And Fetterman, give him all the credit in the world for being able to say, I don't care. This is how I feel. This is my position, and that's it. And I give him a lot of credit for it.
Yeah.
I don't agree with his politics.
True.
95% of them, I don't agree with his politics.
Yep.
But I have a tremendous amount of respect for somebody who speaks their mind honestly, because that's the basis of debate. You cannot have debate if you don't have honesty. And he, from whatever point he's making, from whatever part of the aisle he's speaking from, is being true to himself and his idea when he speaks about things, and I respect that. I respect that a shitload more than I would say somebody like Bernie Sanders, who talks a good game about one thing or another, but then his lifestyle is abundantly opposite that of which he speaks of. Would you expect me to sit in line waiting to get on an airplane when I got to go talk to people? I got to talk to 30,000 people. I'm not going to wait. I have to take a private plane. Screw yourself, you rancid old piece of shit. But again, getting back to Biden, somebody had brought up the Dr. Drew Pinsky. I'm sure you've seen this Dr. Drew guy on TV.
No, I don't watch TV.
Well, he's not only the guy's been around a long time. He's worked with Adam Carolla. He's worked with a lot of the notable talking heads. He's always on somebody's podcast or something. He's a noted physician. He's I believe he's a psychological doctor. I mean, he's one of those guys, right? They were talking about, well, Biden must have been diagnosed with this cancer at least 4 to 5 years ago, because that's how long it would have taken for it to metastasize into his bone tissue, where they're saying it is now. And he's saying the odds are that he has been receiving treatment through the entire course of his presidency. That's why Biden was taking so many days off. He was calling a shuttering of the White House at 3:00 in the afternoon, was doing this and doing that. Everything was not, they weren't necessarily trying to hide his mental deficiency so much as they were trying to hide the fact that he was probably receiving cancer treatment of some sort or another. And part of the reason that he seemed to be so mentally deficient was actually not only because of his age and the possibility that he's got some sort of dementia that's rolling in, but the treatment he would be undergoing for the cancer that he's stricken with is something that would have added to his mental deficiency, his mental incapacitation. It would have sped it up, and it would have made it a lot more visual. And that's another reason why it seemed that if you look back 6 years ago with the Biden you saw 6 years ago, and you look at the Biden that we have today, they're two completely different peoples as far as mental acuity go.
Okay, well, here's the thing. There's two different things happening at the same time here. So on the one hand, there's a mental deficiency in Biden, and there's two very separate things. I think they were happening at the same time. I do think that most of the decline for Biden was cognitive. It was mental. I do agree. Someone had an idea about his cancer diagnosis, but he wasn't receiving treatment for it, because there's no way a president could receive any kind of treatment and not have that notified. I mean, if the Surgeon General, if his doctor, there are records, any kind of documentation, and that would be found, even forget the mainstream media, independent media that follow his medical records on a regular basis. There's no way, even if they had a doctor showing up either at his residence or at the White House, then we would have been notified about that. We would have known about that crap. And we would, the public would have been notified about it. So I think that while they may have had an idea, they did not officially diagnose it or treat it. Otherwise, the public would have known, which would have combined with his mental deficiency. Everyone would have been screaming about the 25th Amendment, and they were more terrified of giving Kamala Harris the presidency than keeping Joe Biden.
Here's the thing. 2 years ago, Biden said he had cancer. It slipped out while he was in Flint, Michigan. He was talking to the people at Flint, the water supply, and talking about people with cancer and stuff like that. And he said, I have cancer. He said it. Yeah. In Flint, Michigan, he let it slip. So he was probably diagnosed a while back. Now, one of the things that I think the Democrats were trying to do, the reason why they were trying so hard to push and say, he's fine, he's as sharp as a tack, he's the brightest bulb in the thing, he's great. They were really hoping that they could continue to fool the American people into believing that his decline wasn't so rapid, so that he would have had a chance to beat Trump in the second time around for a second term. They really, really wanted that to happen, because they knew if all we have to do is get him past January 20th, if we could float him past January 20th, and he can get into a second term, and then we release it. Oh, listen, the president's got he's got cancer and he's got a touch of dementia. They could drop him out. Swear Kamala in, and then Kamala gets to run for 2 more terms.
Yeah, but there have been, matter of fact, I was one of the first people, and on this channel and on others, to come up with the idea that they could have gotten 10 years out of a Kamala Harris. Keep Biden in for 2 years, let him go for 2 years, drop him out, put in Kamala. She suddenly becomes president. Then because, first woman president, she gets to run, use that and the fact that she's a woman of color to win 2024. And then they could get 2028 on the same idea, kind of like what they did with Obama. And they get 10 years out of her. That theory was out there. They didn't need to let Biden run again to get Kamala in. No, I don't think that was the case. I think
no, but they still would have needed him to win a second term for her to take over, because there would have been no way that she would have been able to beat Trump, and they knew that. The only thing that they could hope was that he could beat Trump and that she could take over, because she didn't have the ability to beat Trump.
I don't think anyone thought that Trump would lose to Joe Biden. I don't think anyone seriously believed that. Not any of the pundits, not any of the pollsters, not any of the people donating. No one thought that Biden could seriously win.
But wait a second. Didn't Biden overwhelmingly win in 2020?
No,
didn't he get 87 trillion votes more than Donald Trump? How could he not possibly win?
Of course not. And look at the conditions at that time. Nobody who seriously follows politics believed that Joe Biden could beat Donald Trump, especially after the performance of the economy, the performance of the foreign policy, the performance of Joe Biden trying to walk across a flat stage. Nobody who was serious actually thought he could win. No, their best shot was to actually have a primary and let someone else run. And Kamala wouldn't be able to win, but they didn't know that they would be able to have someone they could control. And that was the biggest reason why they didn't do that. Now, I truly believe, and I know Peter says in the comments, he says that it's called cancer brain, which cancers can and often do, especially as they metastasize. They will affect other areas of the body, no matter where the cancer itself may be seen. And especially when it's a treatable cancer that isn't treated, you can see this happen a lot. I don't think that's the case. Again, I think, yes, the cancer was probably there longer than what we've now seen. It went undiagnosed because Democrats have no problem with elder abuse. Just look at how they treated Dianne Feinstein in her last week of life, using her like a puppet, wheeling her around, telling her how to say how to vote. They don't care about elder abuse because they're authoritarian.
Yeah, well, I think Dianne Feinstein had that in her protocol, that she would say, I don't care if I'm a friggin' vegetable. You wheel me in there to vote no on everything that the Republicans. She had her elder abuse planned out well in advance. Because it was her own daughter wheeling her in and around of everywhere. It wasn't her aide. It wasn't her assistant. It was her daughter wheeling her in and out.
There were a lot of aides around telling her what to say, how to vote. There were a lot of them there, and there were men.
Yeah, she was a willing participant. I don't feel no sympathy for Dianne Feinstein.
It's not about sympathy. It's a matter of fact that the elder abuse, we've seen it with many people on the left, in the Democrats. They do it. We've seen it. It's documented. So I don't think they wouldn't. I think that's part of why cancer wasn't diagnosed earlier, but I think that's separate of the mental issues, because we have people on record now from the White House, the Biden White House, who are admitting, and the Biden campaign in 2020, who are admitting that he had mental lapses, to call it the least. He was mentally deficient prior to 2020. And so that was pre-existing. The Democrats are trying to get sympathy. The whole thing about why they've now come out with the announcement and why they're pushing it right now is because they can't hide Biden was a part-time zombie president. He was not mentally capable of doing the job.
Well,
And
listen, they're not.
Democrats lied to the public, and now they want to pull the heartstrings to distract everyone.
Listen, they're not trying to cover for Biden anymore. They're not even trying to cover for the Democrats anymore. The media is trying to cover for the media. That's what the media is trying to cover for. The media is only trying to make excuses why they didn't do their job for the last 4 years. They're not going to be that. They're going to be out there hanging Democrats out to dry, waiting for the new crop to come in that they could toe that line instead. They're right now. They're worried about covering their own ass because you have so many of these media personalities that are coming out saying, like Jake Tapper, I had to apologize to Laura Trump because I realize now I was wrong when Laura Trump said that
publicly. Jake Tapper.
Right. Well, that's what I'm going to say.
To apologize to her.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It shouldn't have been in an article. It shouldn't have been some snippet somewhere that someone wrote. He should have gotten on television, had her on the show with him, and said, "Mrs. Trump, I'm very sorry, but I was wrong. You were right, and this is why." That media is covering for themselves. They're not covering for the Democrats because the party's over as far as Democrats go. I mean, they are in such disarray. They're going 16 different directions. The media can't keep up with the lies anymore, and they have to cover for why they've been lying for the last 6 years. Actually, they have to try and figure out why they've been lying to the American people for a lot longer than that. But they have to basically now try to convince the American people of their behavior since Trump came down the escalator in 2015. That's what they have to, that's what they're trying to cover for. They don't care. Listen, Biden can be dead and buried tomorrow. They wouldn't give a shit. They wouldn't give a shit.
Yeah,
they don't care.
I think Joel is right in the chat when he says the cancer announcement was meant to squelch any criticism of the Biden administration. They didn't realize that by trying to pull the heartstrings, people who do care about this would say, then why didn't someone do something sooner? Why is it so late stage? Didn't anyone notice? Because people do care about cancer and want to fight cancer. People are paying attention to it, and it backfired on them. They thought people would just let it go. No, people are paying attention to it and saying, hey, this is a big problem. This means there's been a longer term problem. And I agree. This is a longer term, but again, there's two separate issues. There's the cancer and there's the mental decline. Both existed at the same time. Both contributed to him being a part-time zombie president. And at the end of the day, the one question they are desperately trying to avoid people coming to is who was in charge.
Well, that's the question that's right. And that's why the media is trying to run themselves cover, because if they can be shown that the media knew damn well that it was Peppermint Patty, whatever the hell her name was over there, the historical figure, was actually running the White House, or it was chief of staff, or it was this or that, or one of the other guys in a dress running around in the White House, that they were the ones in charge, and the media kind of knew it, then the media is in some seriously big trouble. And that's why they're running to cover their own ass, because they knew Biden wasn't in charge at least the last 26, 28 months. They knew damn well he wasn't in charge, so who was? They know who was in charge, but they're not going to say it. They're going to throw everybody from the administration under the bus to cover their own asses. Because now we got Trump in the White House. Trump's people are digging through every piece of paper that they could find to find out what was going on. There were how many pardons written by AutoPen that are now all going to get challenged?
That's the auto pen thing. A lot of presidents use it. It's
no. Oh, yeah, but there's a difference though. You can't use auto pen to write pardons out for the January 6th committee when the person who's supposed to be signing the document is on a beach in friggin' Delaware, and the pen is being used in Washington D.C. That invalidates everything.
There's a difference. See, it's not auto pen. It's that Joe Biden didn't authorize,
right?
Didn't even know about what was being used, the auto pen was being used on. It's not an auto pen issue. See, that's the problem.
Right.
Auto pen. It's
You're thinking that I believe that there's a pen that does it by itself. I'm telling you that the ones he's only responsible. He only knew of the pardons that he actually wrote himself, the ones that he signed. Somebody in his administration was using the machine without his authorization to try and pardon all the rest of these people. And I actually think it's probably going to wind up coming down to that it was a big pay-to-play scheme. Somebody was getting bribed to do it.
Well, again, that goes back to he was a part-time zombie president. How much was he cognitively aware of in all the decisions? Was it his decision to abandon 5,000 people in Afghanistan? We don't know. Was it his decision to abandon 16,000 people in the Sudan? Yes, people, check that one. Sudan, 2023, last week of April, first week of May, we abandoned 16,000 Americans in the Sudan. Didn't get a whole lot of news. It did happen. But was it because of Biden or someone else that we didn't try and get a ceasefire or try to negotiate with Hamas to get back the American hostages that were subsequently killed by Hamas, the terrorist organization? That's the bigger question. So it's not about the auto pen. The auto pen is, see, that's how they deflect the story. They turn it into, well, the auto pen, it's been used by presidents. It's considered to be an official thing. They distract the story and confuse the story. It's not about the auto pen. It's about the legislation.
Right,
but pardon itself and other legislation. Did Biden have the ability to do it? Go ahead.
Right, but when I say auto pen, I'm saying how many decisions were being made without his knowledge? How many things were being signed without him even being a part of it? There were deals, there were negotiations made for trade agreements that he didn't even know. He was asked about 2 and 3 months later, and he said, "I signed that? When did I sign that?" He was asking, he doesn't even know. So when I say auto pen, I mean his staff. That's what I'm basically talking about.
But I think it's not that I don't, you and I, we talk all the time. We've been talking for years. I know you. So I understand what you're talking about, but we're also talking to the public. And the media is trying to confuse this for the public. That's why I'm making such a point about why it's not auto pen and what it actually is. Because I understand what you're talking about. You're actually meaning the staff. You're talking about cognitive knowledge and content. I understand that's what you mean. The public doesn't, because they hear auto pen and then they hear the media go, "Yeah, but everyone's used the auto pen."
I kind of like to think that the people that are watching us are a little bit more savvy than the people that are sitting there watching the Bill Maher show.
Could be new people. Could be new people watching.
And you know what? And the fact that they're here, the fact that new people are here watching, proves that they're smart enough to know what I'm talking about. They know what they're talking about. Our audience is the most savvy audience politically that there is in the podcasting spectrum. These people know what we're talking about.
I tend to believe that. But
speaking of which, I'm just going to break real quick. When we came on, I was having a lovely treat. I suggest anybody who get it. Yes, I was having. In North Carolina, there's a beverage here called Cheerwine. It's a cherry-flavored soda that apparently is a staple here in North Carolina. So Lori earlier today mentioned that she wanted to get they have these cherry-flavored frosty things at Burger King. I brought home a couple the other day, and they were delicious. Well, she said they were good. I didn't like it that much. But she said earlier today, she goes, "I would like to have a cherry float. Can you pick up some Cheerwine and ice cream?" So I picked up some Cheerwine and ice cream. And if you have a root beer float, it's vanilla ice cream and root beer. This was Cheerwine and black cherry ice cream. My God, was that delicious. I'll have to put a picture of the recipe up, but my God, that was delicious. I wasn't expecting to eat it while we were on the air, but it was there, and she was having one, so she made me one. So Delicious. So if you ever get a chance, that's my food tip of the week: cheer wine and black cherry ice cream float. Oh my God, was that delicious?
Okay. But I can't say that. By the way, since
Hey,
we're digressing, Joel did
people
mention
like
that he's missing the housewives of wherever the hell to watch us. So I appreciate that. And we're saving you brain rot because housewives of I don't give a damn. Yeah, it's useless. It's useless content. Go on.
Well, I was just going to say is, people kind of like the fact that the fat guy talks about food stuff. So,
I guess so.
that's,
I don't know.
well, hey, you always take food advice from a fat guy. That's rule number one. That should be like, all right, you want good food, you listen to a fat guy. You want great food, you listen to a fat Italian guy. I'm a fat Italian guy, so I know great food when I talk about it. So,
Okay. I'll take your word on it. I don't know. I'll take your word on it. But since we are switching up, let me and if people want to bring it up in really, what, they're not paying us. Take them off.
that's cheer wine. It's delicious. Hey, it's about Liz. Hey, I'm in North Carolina. That's a North Carolina thing.
They're not paying us.
I don't care if they're not paying us. Maybe you know what? Maybe that'll come up in somebody in cheer wine will say and go, hey, Vass and Johnson. They were sitting there talking about how great that our product is. Let's give them a case of some stuff. Yeah, that would be
or some kind of sponsorship. I'll be happy to talk about it for an entire hour. But until then, I don't care. But let me. But I was. So we're transitioning, and yes, we still. If the chat wants to talk more, we can always talk more about Biden and the cancer heartstring pull manipulation that's trying to distract from the absolute failure of the policies of Democrats, because that's really what they're covering up. Everything they suggested, everything they put in under the Biden administration failed. And Biden probably didn't know everything that was his name was being attached to, which is sad. That's part of the elder abuse. But at the same time, let me move on. I mentioned it a little bit because we were talking about the protests at our colleges, which is a symptom of what we've been seeing. What we were talking about earlier about Democrats are afraid to speak up because they're going to be ostracized. We talked a little bit about the fact that the party right now is splintering. They've got AOC seems to be their superstar because that's all they've got left. And that's because look at what they are doing right now. They're committing crimes in our colleges. And when I say that, I mean, if you take over a building, if you occupy a building, that's kidnapping. Now, if you're threatening people with violence or the potential of violence, then, and we see that with Antifa members who are going into the buildings trying to commit arson in these colleges, that is a threat. That is a threat of violence. And today in Colombia, they were standing just outside of the graduation ceremony, a crowd of these pro-Hamas protesters, because that's what they are. They're supporting terrorism, which they want the school to promote. They want the schools to promote and teach genocide and terrorism. And they're out and burning their degrees. And I find it interesting because it's another part of the hypocrisy that we see. It's like with John Fetterman. John Fetterman is absolutely mentally unstable. Immediately after getting a stroke, he has to go in for depression and treatments from his doctor. And Democrats are saying he's the greatest thing ever. Now he's better. And they're like, oh my God, we hate him because he's not on the plantation. Well, same thing with what we're seeing in the colleges. Oh, if you're part of the plantation, you're there saying, hey, Hamas, a terrorist organization that kills babies, they're fantastic. We got to support them. And they're burning their degrees that they will use to make money for themselves. And if you say anything against them, well, then you're the bad person. You're a racist. You're a sexist. You're an ist and a phobe. And I think that's one of the biggest problems going forward for the Democratic Party. They have no substantive issue. And the the cosmetic issues, those surface issues they have, are just orange man bad. You're a racist. You're an ist. You're a phobe. Obey, obey, obey. But there's nothing to obey. There's nothing of substance there. They have failed. And I think that's really, the public is nowhere behind these people. The public is nowhere where any of these Democrats are in terms of supporting it, in terms of even the issues. No one's there with them. They're on their own because they deserve to be, because they're extremist and they're authoritarian. And I think the story doesn't get a lot of attention because the news media knows. If you were to point out, oh yeah, University of Washington, the leftist Antifa, they were trying to burn it down. Over in Colombia, yeah, they're punishing people who spent $100,000 for not obeying the feelings of a handful of protesters. It's really sad. And then they want you to believe, but it's all about free speech. No, it's not. It's not about free speech. Intimidation is not free speech. Threats of violence are not free speech. Attempted arson is not free speech. That's not a protest. That's a riot. That's intimidation. Big difference. And that's not, and I think President Trump was great in saying, you know what? You can do that. You're a private company like Harvard and Princeton. You want to go and allow intimidation? Fantastic. No federal money. Take away all the money. There's no reason why you should be getting money from the American people pushing genocide and racism and authoritarianism. You know what? Don't give them any money. I think that was a great idea. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't think they should be getting any money anyway, regardless. I don't think they should be getting any money at any of these private institutions shouldn't be getting any U.S. tax dollars, regardless of whether on the right side, left side, middle side, upside, downside. I don't care what side they're on. They shouldn't be getting any money. You want to fund your college? Do it through tuition. If people want to come to your school and pay that kind of money to do it, then fine. That's how you fund yourself. You know, how many billions of dollars did Trump take away from Harvard?
9. Well, someone estimated somewhere between 2 and 9. Depends on how you count. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear people on the left out there screaming, oh, but they took it away and Harvard is doing all this medical research and doing all of this and doing all of that and all this research and they're gonna cure this thing. They ain't curing shit. Let's face it. Let's really look at some of these research grants that these colleges are getting. Anything that comes out of a college is owned by the college. So if we gave the colleges billions of dollars to do this kind of research, and then the college students are the ones doing the research, the experimentation, and let's just say they come up with a cure for Alzheimer's, do you think they're going to turn that back over to the federal government and say, here's the cure for Alzheimer's that the taxpayers paid for through the research grants that enabled us to do this study? No. They're going to slap a copyright on it. They're going to slap a patent on it. And then Harvard is going to sell it to the next medical company who's going to wind up burying it. Because let's face it, the medical community doesn't cure anything anymore. They just treat things. Anything that comes out of the colleges is going to be owned by the colleges, but they're getting it on the money that we supply them. So if they're going to own something, let them pay for it themselves. We don't have to give them a dime for anything.
Well, that's part of my point. They already have. You're looking at Harvard, Columbia, Princeton, Stanford. You look at all the major colleges, they all make money. They're almost every college in America, they're profitable. They have endowments from their prior graduates and alumni. They have money. Harvard's got $52 billion. Columbia and Princeton and Stanford, they have similar amounts. They're not going broke anytime soon. So they don't need our money. So it's not, oh, this is preventing our free speech, or they want to point to the visas. Mahmoud Khalil, who was a kid, the first student who got taken by ICE because of revoking his visa, which I think is perfectly fine. That's legal. It is legal. Notice they're not saying it's illegal anymore. Why? Because it is absolutely, solidly, perfectly legal for the president to say, you know what? You no longer have the privilege to be in America. Goodbye. Because you're disrupting the society of America with your words. You're being insurrectionist. You're being disharmonious to our society. Get out of my country. No, mind you, they can speak all they want, just not in America. He didn't say you can't say that. He said you can't say it in America. Go anywhere else in the world you want to. And that's not stopping American citizens. No one has told a single American citizen you can't say anything. No one has stopped it. It was the Democrats that came up with the Disinformation Governance Board that was going to try and control what people could or could not say on the internet. Democrats came up with that. Trump hasn't done it. He didn't bring it back. He's not trying to make any of the social media companies force people to say certain things. No, Democrats are willing to do that. Democrats, again, this is their authoritarianism. So when you say, oh my God, no one can speak at colleges, not one college has been told they can't speak. They are saying, but you don't need you don't need federal funding. And you know what? If you're not an American citizen, then, we don't necessarily want to hear from you. That's entirely different. Now, you may not like that, and the left doesn't like it, but that's not silencing anyone. And it is far, far less restrictive than what the left has done for decades to the American people. Far less restrictive. And I think people should take a look at that. And Joel brings it up great. Under the Disinformation Governance Board of the Biden-Harris administration, people wouldn't have the ability to have the option to watch programs like we have right now.
We would have been shut down. They would have fast tracked us to like what they're doing in Great Britain right now, which is thought policing. It's goes even so far beyond what you say. It's going to be a matter of what you think.
Yeah, and that's the problem is, if this is about ideas and pushing the correct ideas, then the left should be happy to have the opportunity now to go use the resources at all of these colleges across the nation to tell us why their idea is great. They're not doing that. They are intimidating people, but they're not sharing their idea and saying, see, this is so much better than anything that's being offered. No, they're saying, Go ahead.
Here's the thing with leftists, and they're such hypocrites. They really are. I don't want my money going to the colleges. I don't want my money going to PBS. I don't want to support things that are ideologically different than what the American principles are. I don't want money going towards the things that I agree with. I don't want taxpayer dollars going into any sort of private industry. Now the left comes out all the time and they complain about, well, how else are they going to get funded? It's called the private sector. That's the thing. The marketplace of ideas is the private sector. If you have a product or an idea that you want to support, go spend your money and support it. PBS has a pledge drive every year. Give them your money. The colleges have all this money that they want to spend. If you want them to spend that money, give them your money to spend. If you want whatever. Now you look at, well, how else is Sesame Street going to do? I don't care about Sesame Street. I don't care about PBS. I don't. If you want to support it, give them your money. Let them pay for broadcasting time. Hell, let them go get advertising the way a conventional television station does, and let them solicit advertisers to come on and push their left-wing products to the left-wing audience, and let them pay for it. They talk about like the WNBA. Oh, the athletes in the WNBA aren't getting paid what the NBA players are. Well, the NBA is subsidizing the WNBA hundreds of millions of dollars a year to facilitate. And then when you ask the leftists who complain about, well, the NWA doesn't want to, the NBA doesn't want to support them anymore. They want to be able to stand on their own. Well, they can't. They can't. Well, when was the last time you went to a WNBA game?
Well, that's always.
Are you paying for cable TV to get the WNBA league station? Or, oh, you want the transvestites to run in the sports? Are you going to pay money to go see those sports? No, you're not. You don't ever want, the left doesn't ever want to put their money behind their causes. The only thing that they want to do is turn around and say, if you have a cause we don't believe in, we won't spend our money with you. They're great at boycotting, but they're no good at boycotting.
Well, I'd say more accurately, they want the luxury of having their comforts, their feelings satisfied without having any effort being put into it. They want to know that their programming exists, and it's the only thing that exists, but they don't actually want to consume it.
Right, and that's why.
Go ahead.
That's why NPR is a failure. But if you look and listen to talk radio, conservative talk radio is far and away at least 85% to 15 more successful than left-wing radio is about. Because it's a marketplace of free ideas. It's a capitalism system. The good ideas, the good programming gets the money from the advertisers, from the people listening. Shit ideas get shit revenue. Why are we going to constantly look to see how many taxpayer dollars? Now you notice I don't ever say federal money. I always say taxpayer dollars because the feds don't have any money. It's all our money. It's taxpayer funding. Taxpayer funding only goes to the crappiest things.
Always. But because they don't support themselves. They can't support themselves. And 9 out of 10 times, that means it's just a failed idea. Move on. It's like the Department of Education. It failed. Why are we spending so much money on it? Why are we keeping it floating and existing when it's failed? When we have students who are graduating from high schools under the Department of Education guidelines and they're illiterate, it's failed. Get rid of it. Stop spending the money there. We can spend the money in better places. I think that would be the better way. Let me shift a little bit because there was something else I wanted to bring up that everyone's talking about. There's two things. One is about Cuomo and his race, and which goes in line with what we're hearing about with judges like Judge Dugan and what's happening with Representative McIver. But we can say that for the next thing. But I want to bring up the Qatar Jet. I am sure you've heard by this point, because the this has been the latest thing. The Democrats have been looking for some issue that they can jump all up and down on, and the public will follow them. They are looking for something to convince people that Orange Man bad, and the only option is vote Democrat. They're desperate for that. The latest in that series of things is now the Qatar Jet. Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it, and it is from the beginning to the end. It's ridiculous. I have my own problems with the whole deal. And my problems with the deal have to do with Boeing. Have nothing to do with Qatar giving us a plane. Hey, you know what? Thank you. I appreciate the generosity. That's a very nice thing to do. You would like the leader of the free world to not be flying around in a 40-year-old plane. And you guys can afford to do it. It's a very nice diplomatic gesture to the American people. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, let me show you something, and I want to hear what you think about this. So, and this came out today, just before we went on to the program, and I want to share it with everyone. Come on. And there it is. This is from NBC News. NBC. So left-leaning media. This is mainstream news media. No one can say, "Oh, Mike, you're cherry picking." Mainstream media, and we see this a lot. And here's the thing: because the news that came out, the Defense Department, Pentagon, has approved that the United States can accept the jet from Qatar. Now we're going to go over that in a second, but I want you to see this headline. I want you to think about this, folks. And it says, Pentagon says it has accepted Qatar's gift of a luxury megajet for Trump's use. That's the key thing. And here's the thing. They know, NBC News is fully aware that they are lying to the public. This headline, which they assume people will just read the headline and not read the story at all, they are counting on that, is a lie. They are lying to the public. They say the prospect of the plane has drawn security and ethical concerns from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, as well as ethics groups. Well, more about the security. That's on the right. The right is worried about security. The left is claiming this is an ethical issue. It is neither of, well, it is not an ethical issue. It might be a security issue, but this is, if I said this about any president, they would try and, if I said this about Joe Biden, then they would try and shut me down saying that I am libeling, that this is libelous, because that's how bad it is. So why am I saying that? Let me explain. And I don't, well, actually, let me ask you, Frank, before I ask the public, before we go to the public and our audience, do you know why that's a lie? Why NBC is committing a crime there?
Well, it's not for Trump's use.
There it is.
It's for the use of the office of the President of the United States through the United States Air Force. That's what it is.
It is a gift to the United States.
Right. It's not
President Trump, not an individual.
Right. It's not President Trump's jet. It's gifted to the Department of Defense. It will be then given to the United States Air Force, which oversees the transportation needs of the administration, not Donald Trump. The administration, meaning the President of the United States, regardless of whom that president might be. Now, they call it a luxury jet. Well, let's get something squared away with the luxury jet.
Air Force One is
All right.
a luxury jet.
Air Force One is basically the flying White House. Anything that the president needs or could possibly want is on Air Force One. And that goes for any president, okay? The only thing that is not on Air Force One is if they call for a specific person that's not currently on the plane. Anything else that the president wants, he gets it. Now, a luxury jet, when that plane lands in the United States, the entirety of that plane is going to be stripped down to the fuselage, and it is going to be completely retrofitted and refitted up to the standards that the Secret Service and the U.S. Air Force deem necessary for the facilitation of the transportation of the President of the United States, not Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Now, odds are Boeing is already 6 years late in delivering the latest rendition.
Wait, before you go further, for people who are not familiar, and again, this is the news media knows this, but they're not talking about this. Every Air Force One that the United States uses they come from Boeing. It gets stripped down. All of them are stripped down to the bolts, down to the bare framework, and rebuilt, rewired up from there. Every Air Force One plane has had this done. Doesn't matter what country it comes from. And
Right.
by the way,
And there,
one second, the plane that Qatar is giving us, one, it was made in America by Boeing. And by the way, last year, 2024, the Biden administration was negotiating to buy that exact same plane for the exact same reason that they are gifting it to the United States now, because
Right.
we need an Air Force One. And it was always going to, whether we bought it or whether it's being gifted, it was always going to be stripped down and rebuilt just like every other Air Force One. Go ahead.
and the reason why is because it is a fully functional, state-of-the-art 747.
Yeah.
It is the full, because 747s come in three different sizes. The 747 that's known as Air Force One is the largest configuration of the 747 fuselage. That one happens to be completely built already. It's finished. It's done. Now it has to get stripped apart. The one that they're supposed to, because Boeing is 6 years late already in replacing one of the two planes that we know as Air Force One. The one that the president is flying in now there's two Air Force Ones. One is a backup plane. Okay. The backup plane is being repaired. It's being retrofitted now, meaning the president only has one Air Force One to fly around on. This one is going to come in. It's going to be retrofitted. The one that's being repaired now will be the one that the president does fly on when the current plane is retired. And this new Boeing, after it gets retrofitted to the standards necessary, will become the new Air Force One. That plane, Donald Trump is probably never going to set foot on that plane during his presidency.
Most likely.
Because it's going to,
2 years.
It's going to take a tremendous amount of time for them to get this thing retrofitted. And not only is it going to be retrofitted to the standards now, it has to be retrofitted to the standards that will be acceptable upon delivery, which means 2 to 4 years from now. So the technologies going in that are still being developed, because the president's plane has got technologies in it that no other 747 has. We're talking about some state-of-the-art, top-secret stuff that keeps that plane secure. It is the most secure aircraft on the face of the planet. We're not just going to get a plane from the Middle East, because it's probably not over there anyway. It's probably here. It's probably still at the Boeing factory.
It is. Yeah, it is at the Boeing factory in Washington State.
Right, and it's good. Right. Right, and it's going to wind up flying into Nevada, to Area 51, where they're going to wind up doing a whole bunch of stuff to it. It'll wind up going down to Dulles. It'll wind up going everywhere that the military's got facilities to do the work they need to do. That's where it'll go. By the time it's ready to get the fuselage numbers on it that designate Air Force One, Donald Trump will have been retired. Yeah. He's never going to set foot on his plane. Wow. He might get the inaugural flight out of it. Who the hell knows? But it's not Donald Trump's plane. It's our plane.
But that's the part, and I want people to understand how you are being lied to, how you are being manipulated, because everything that we've said is verifiable in every document. And every news media organization has confirmed this over and over again. And the fact is that we know that it's for the government. It's not about an individual. And I said this, I think on my Sunday live stream, I was talking about this. This isn't even about the plane. They're like, oh, it's a bribe. It's a $400 million. First of all, Trump already has a jet. Doesn't need another jet. He already has a private jet. That's one. But this wasn't about Qatar giving Trump a jet. It's because they're giving it to the United States. It's about the statement. This is a message to the Middle East. It's to say that Qatar is on the same side as America and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, which is why they offered it when Trump was leaving the Middle East after he made his deals. They did this to let the rest of the Middle East know what is the political status at this moment, that Iran is being isolated by itself. And Trump has successfully, he's already in negotiations with them. And again, all the peace deals in the world right now, Trump's administration is deep in the middle of helping to create peace around the world. We're talking with Iran right now. Joe Biden had 36 sanctions that he removed from Iran. They didn't talk to him. Trump comes in and says, I'm going to put on all 36 and probably another dozen on top of it. And Iran is now talking to us all of a sudden. Shocking, isn't that? But more importantly, so Iran is being isolated. That if they continue to support terrorism, they're going to be punished. Saudi Arabia jumped on with America and said, yeah, we agree. United Arab Emirates, the UAE, agreed and jumped on the side with President Trump. Qatar said, we're not going to be left out. And Qatar is important because they are the nation that all the terrorists, all their banking goes through Qatar, all of their negotiations go through Qatar. It is basically the Middle East version of Switzerland, essentially. And all the money and all the diplomacy goes through Qatar for the Middle East. So that's why it was important. This is about foreign policy. It's not about Donald Trump. It's not about bribing Donald Trump. It's about Middle East politics going forward for the next decade. And people don't realize that because the news media is so busy trying to tell people, oh, by the way, it's about Trump. No, it's not. It is a bald-faced lie because they want you to say, see, Trump, you can't trust him. Orange man bad, vote Democrat. That's why NBC put up that headline, which is a lie, and they know it. And their coverage will tell you that they are lying. This is not Trump's plane. It's the United States plane. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, the problem that I have with the whole thing is, oddly enough, not the problem that most other people are going to have with it. My problem with this whole thing is Boeing is a screw up.
Yeah.
Boeing is years late with delivering the most important aircraft on the face of the planet. Yeah. Years late. Trump goes to the Middle East and brokers one of the largest deals for aircraft on Boeing's behalf, or with Boeing.
Yeah.
Basically rewarding them. I don't think Boeing should be allowed to sell another goddamn plane on the face of this earth until it upholds its existing contracts. They have made a deal with the American people to have the president's plane delivered on a certain day, and they are 4 years behind schedule. And we are going to reward them with the sale of, what was it, 160 planes? Or was it $160 billion deal for like 40 planes? Was something to
$160 billion.
Something to that effect. Aren't there other American airline companies?
There are kind of. You're talking about Lockheed Martin. There's 3 companies in the industry that make planes, and
right.
Really, Boeing, the big ones that make planes. There's essentially in the size and style of passenger planes. There's Boeing, and it's American. There's Airbus, which is
France,
French, and there's one other which I don't remember. But they're not as big. The 2 big commercial planes, the big jets that we think of, are going to be Airbus and Boeing. That's it. That's
right. Well, I just kind of think to myself, If you president of the United States is going to be responsible for the largest deal that you've ever had, and you're 4 years behind the eight ball in delivering the one friggin' plane that you should be delivering on time, maybe it's Boeing that should have been gifting a plane to the United States Air Force and not the Middle East. Maybe Boeing should be saying, listen, we're really, really sorry that things got this screwed up on our end. Please allow us to convey our appreciation for being the number one airline manufacturer on the face of the earth and say, here, American people, thank you for supporting us. We would like to support you in return by giving the American people the new Air Force One.
Okay. By the way,
it just seems that we're rewarding them for failure, and I think that's wrong.
Well, I understand that, but by the way, thank you, Peter, for going out and double checking. I couldn't remember the third one. The third one is Embraer. They are number 3 in the world. So those are the top 3. Embraer, it is Airbus, and it is Boeing. So just to be correct about that, since I was trying to mention it, there's only, like I said, there's only 3 in the world that really make these. Should Boeing be punished? Maybe. There's a lot of military contracts. There's a lot of government contracts, and maybe we should be requesting as a government a discount from the private business, Boeing, saying, okay, you failed, and it should be in the contract as is that they missed their window of delivery. Then there should be, yeah, I put that up before.
Sorry.
That's all right. No, fine. That there should be some kind of discount or some kind of penalty. It should have been in the contract. The problem is government has been inefficient and ineffective for so long.
Well,
no one's paying attention to the details anymore.
Well, you know what would be great if we had. You know what would be great if we had, I don't know, maybe like a Department of Government Efficiency that would oversee not only government contracts, but contracts given to private companies on behalf of the U.S. government for things that the government cannot facilitate on its own. Like, I don't know, building a friggin' airplane.
Well, some of these companies are still using excuses that are 4 years old. But I agree. Yes, we should have some oversight. This is why we need transparency, which we have been getting over the last 115 days from the Trump administration, more than we've ever had before. This is what we need transparency for. Let's see the deal. Let's see the contract. And I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but let's make it more transparent and easier for people to find, because I guarantee you, I could spend the next 24 hours searching for it, and I will eventually get a FOIA to find the contract because it is public, but finding it is, even for people who know what you're looking for, is very difficult. And then you have to go through, 1,000 pages trying to find every single clause. This is ridiculous. We need more transparency so that when we have something like what Boeing is doing, and they missed their date, they missed their window, they have failed the American people, and it's costing us money, that money should be a penalty on Boeing's side, because it's inflationary. Every dollar that we're spending on this, and it's going to cost us $3.9 billion for the contract with Boeing. You know what? Yeah, let's go out there and share that cost that we now have, because they're late. But my big focus on this isn't really Boeing. My big concern about this is I'm looking at it from the political sense. You're talking about the private business Boeing and future deals with them, and that is important. There's, of course, the ongoing cost, which is inflationary. That is, of course, and Doge should be talking about that, should be focused on that. I understand. But I'm looking at the political side of it, of how this is going to affect the midterm elections. There are going to be a bunch of Democrats who are going to see NBC, and they're going to say, NBC said it was Trump's plane. And I guarantee you, a year from now, that when people have 3 weeks from now, when everyone's moved on to the next story and no one remembers anything, and you ask the average person in America, and especially the average Democrat out there, and they're going to say, well, NBC said, I know, NBC said that this is Trump's plane, and that's wrong, and he shouldn't have a plane. That was him being bribed, because they don't know, they just got manipulated, that they were lied to again, direct to their face, and no one called it out. And that's why I have a problem, because Democrats want to win the next election, because they have nothing substantive to offer. So they have to lie about the facts in the headlines, in the short little blurbs they put out, to put a political spin that is absolutely fraudulent. And that really pisses me off. I mean, you won't say, oh, we shouldn't have a plane from Qatar. I don't like the fact that, as long as if it's been in the possession of Qatar, I'm not really happy with that. Yes, we're going to strip it down. Yes, we'll check it for listening devices and rebuild it. I still got some issues with it. But you know what? The fact is, that's not the same thing as saying, oh, but it's Trump's private plane. He's going to use this for the rest of his life. No, he's not. And by the way, if he was, Congress has the right. Here's the other thing that no one really talks about. Congress, they talk about the Emolument Act. Congress has the right to say no. Yes, the Department of the Pentagon, the Department of Defense has DOD just said that they're going to accept it.
Well, here's
say no.
All right. Well, here's the thing. Congress can accept it, and the media can report on it. I'm going to make a challenge to Congress, and I'm going to make a challenge to the media. Anyone in Congress, the Senate, any form of government, whatever the case is, that is complaining that Trump is getting a new jet, I will post an email. I will post a letter on the L1F.US website that says, I so-and-so, object to Donald Trump receiving this jet so much that I am giving myself a lifetime ban from traveling on it. And that will include anybody in the media pool who likes to call it Trump's new jet. If you think it's Trump's new jet and you don't want to report the facts, then how about you sign an agreement that says you're never going to travel on that plane? Because, well, no, of course, because they all want the plane. They all want the plane. Chris Van Hollen will be the first one to turn around and say Trump shouldn't be getting a new plane. He should get hey, can I borrow the plane to go down to South America and have another margarita? You'll get the Q-tip over there from California wanting to go and taking a ride on Air Force One while he's trying to file impeachment documents. You'll have Jake Tapper out there complaining about Trump's new plane, but looking to get a seat on it so he can follow Trump around to write more bad shit about him. Every one of them is a bunch of friggin' hypocrites. You don't like the plane? Tell you what, sign an agreement that says you'll never get on it.
They will never do that, and their excuse is we've got to cover the president. Of course, that's their excuse. But
no, you don't have to. You can get a junior reporter from the press pool. Give them their big break and let them go follow the president around.
They're never going to do that. But because this isn't about this plane. Again, in literally in a week, this will no longer be a story. No one will be talking about this. No one will care. It's because, again, if Congress was so angry, they can vote against it right now. They could stop this right now. They could have stopped it already if they really wanted to, because they have the power to do so, but they don't care. This is about elections. This is about Orange Man bad. This is about motivating people to vote Democrat in 2026 for the midterm election, if not in 2028. So that's really what it's about. And that's the sad thing, because it has nothing to do with anything that is substantive. This is purely politicking.
Well, again, Democrats do not care about the country. They only care about their power.
Okay.
Period.
I know that there was something. I know we're getting a little bit late. I wanted to jump into a little bit about Trump versus Cuomo. And I know you have something you want to talk about too. So I'm going to try. We started a little late. So
No, I want to talk about. I gotta wrap things up early tonight. I got a shit ton of boxes sitting here on the island that I got to get through tonight. You get them all put away, and I'm exhausted. All right, so let's hit on your Trump Cuomo real quick, and let's get to wrapping it up.
All right. I'll go over it more on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but really fast. Right now,
Well, give us a synopsis, give us a little taste, so people can know what they're going to tune into.
yeah. Right now, it's being pushed out in the media right now. The Department of Justice is looking into Andrew Cuomo and his comments and his actions during the lockdowns and his actions that led to 16,000 people dying.
About time.
And the left are upset and they're saying, well, this is political. It's because according to Congressman, what's his name? Oh, the 15th district, Richie Torres. According to Richie Torres, it's because Donald Trump is afraid of Andrew Cuomo becoming mayor of New York. I think this is absolutely stupid. I think this is absolutely ridiculous. It has nothing to do with that. The fact is, did Cuomo cover up 16,000 people dying? Yes. Did he ever get investigated for that cover up? No. Now someone is actually looking into the death of 16,000 Americans. It so happens that the disgraced former governor of New York, who resigned because of 11 acts of sexual abuse per Attorney General Letitia James, a Democrat, she's the one who said that. He resigned on that so he could escape any further punishment. Guess what? He didn't escape, and it can be investigated, and it's correct. It's just like with Judge Dugan and many of these cases where Democrats have been held to a different standard if they're elected or judges. No, the standard is the law, and they should be treated accordingly. It isn't about the president of the United States, who's involved in 5 different peace negotiations around the world, is not afraid of the next mayor of New York. I'm sorry, New York isn't that important. It's not that big a deal. Andrew Cuomo does. No one in the world is going, I wonder what Andrew Cuomo thinks about this. Iran isn't trying to figure out what Andrew Cuomo wants. Hamas, Russia, North Korea, China, Ukraine. Nobody cares what Andrew Cuomo thinks. He's not important. But this is another example of, oh my God, well, it's Trump abusing the power of the presidency. No, he's not. This is actually Trump saying, this is the law, and this is being efficient, effective. This is following the letter of the law. Let us actually hold these people accountable. So that's the story in a nutshell, essentially.
Yeah, Cuomo's a schmuck. And I'll say it, he's responsible for thousands and thousands and thousands of deaths. In my opinion, his actions led to the deaths of thousands and thousands of people, including my Uncle Jimmy and my Aunt Nancy, both of whom succumbed because they were in facilities where they should have been safe. And between them and Fauci's recommendations and Cuomo's actions, my otherwise very healthy aunt and uncle both perished because of political expediency. That's what happened. So when Cuomo reaches the gates of hell, I hope the gates are open wide, and I hope the fire's extra hot. That's all I can say about that. So when you talk about it, hopefully I'll jump in on you on Sunday. I gotta find my schedule card. It's around here somewhere. Here it is.
2:30.
What time you want at 2:30 until when?
30. I go until probably about 7. So.
All right, I'll try and catch up with you on the last hour because I'm working till 6 on Sunday.
Not a problem. I will be there, almost guaranteed, till at least 7. It's usually a 5-hour show thereabouts.
Okay. All right. You ever see those memes on social media that say something about like, if I ever hit the lottery, I won't say anything, but there'll be signs.
Yeah,
You know, and the guy will have like a garage full of like classic cars, or he'll have like a big house, or like someone like me, or like big guns, you know, or like that. We have come very far with the Alpha Challenge, with the Ultimate Alpha Challenge, and it looks like we have signed a couple of very important sponsors.
Cool.
Very, 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 very big sponsors. Now, I am not at liberty to say who those sponsors are, but in the weeks to come, there will be signs.
Well,
Those,
remind everyone, for people who didn't see the show last week, who may not have been familiar, give them a nutshell summary. What's the Alpha Challenge?
all right. The Range Report, the little YouTube channel that I, your humble correspondent, host over there on the YouTube, the Rumble, and other afforded media, along with the Liberty First Foundation, have been putting together a very complicated shooting challenge that is going to revolutionize the sport shooting competition world. We've been working on this project for 3 years. We've traveled coast to coast trying to find the perfect facility in which to house this event, which will be a 2-day event with over 600 competitors in this thing once everybody is signed up and on board. It's a 3-gun match, but not a 3-gun match. It is a obstacle course, but not an obstacle course. It's a relay race, but not quite the relay race. It's kind of if you took all of the elements of all of these skill sets, put them in a blender, chopped it all up, and then poured it out over 120 acres of land. That's what is going to be known as the Alpha Challenge, the ultimate Alpha Challenge, to which here is a list of some 30 some odd challenges that are going to be facilitated on 2 different identical tracks that mirror each other over 122 acre parcel of land in Surf City, North Carolina, known as Sanctum 1791, the premier shooting range in North America. It is the Mar-a-Lago of gun clubs, so to speak. Well, it'll be teams of 4 people, 100 teams competing over 2 days on 2 tracks of identically diabolical devices in which you have to avoid, run through, lift up, twist, move, push, pull, and do whatever we ask you to do, and then shoot. And then tag out to your next person who's got to do the same thing. It is going to be diabolical, but it's going to be fun, challenging, heart-thumping, but anybody can do it. Everybody can do it. It's the kind of challenge that, even though it's difficult, is not going to require Herculean feats of strength. It's not going to require marathonian, ability to run. Everybody at every skill level, any kind of athlete can participate in the event, because we have leveled the playing field so dramatically by making things more about the mind than about the physicality. And it is going to be a remarkable challenge. It's going to take place October of next year, because this is how long it's going to take us to actually build the course and to get all the registrants going. So little by little, week by week, we're going to be introducing a little bit more of the challenge to you. Today, I'm going to give you a couple of the names of some of the challenges. I'm going to give you 5. The sled drag, the bucket carry, the tire trap, the log chop, the spike drive. Those are just a few. And I'm going to give you a couple of the bonus ones. The hatchet throw and the bullseye bow and arrow competition. Just to give you a sense of what we're going to be doing. And also, we're going to be shooting 9mm handguns, 5.56 rifles, and 12-gauge shotguns, all a part of the competition. It is going to be epic, extraordinary, and fun. And the top team, which could be anyone, is going to win $25,000. So keep in mind, and that's not all. There's going to be a lot of prizes. Actually, the top team in this event has the ability to win $45,000 because we're not only giving cash prizes out to the top team, we're going to be giving cash prizes out to individual parts of the competition. So the people who perform the best in certain segments of the competition will be awarded a prize. Now, if you're the top team with the fastest overall score and the most accurate pointage, if your team all runs that course fastest in each segment, your team could win $45,000. But anything can happen. It's the Ultimate Alpha Challenge, and it's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to quote my president, huge. I know a lot about challenges. I know a lot about being the alpha. This is the Ultimate Alpha Challenge, and it's huge. So, Mike, with that, I'm going to give us a sign out to everybody. Vass, plug the show once for yourself this weekend.
This weekend, for people who are interested, you can always find me on No Soundbites Allowed. That's on Rumble, that's on X, that's on YouTube, and other social media, Facebook and others, at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about these issues and many others with sources from left-leaning news agencies from around the world, talking about the details about how and what is affecting you. And I think it goes pretty well. We've been doing it for about 2 decades now. It's going pretty well. A lot of fun. We invite everyone, even if and don't worry, you don't have to agree. A lot of people watch it. They don't. We look forward to having everyone and your comments every Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Throwing knives as part of the Alpha Challenge. Part of the Alpha Challenge. Throwing knives. Big stuff here. Throwing hatchets. Part of the Alpha Challenge. Are you an alpha, Mike? Are you an alpha?
Physically, but yes.
Oh, dude, you're in better shape than just about most of the people that I know. So don't be.
For my age, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. For a guy half your age, you're in better shape than most people. Yeah, you're
yes.
you are definitely an alpha. All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you guys for joining us in this week's edition of the Weekly Roundtable. Hopefully next week we'll have a couple more seats filled in here. We've been missing a couple of the guys. The schedule change to Wednesday has worked out great for audience participation, but not necessarily for all of our scheduling because we all actually have jobs and stuff. So, responsibilities have to come in, and we always try to hear there and make the best we can for the show, and we thank you guys for being the most important part of it. So, like we always say, you guys be safe and shoot straight, and we'll catch you here. So, same bat time, same bat channel next week. So,